2 Kings chapter 11. And Athaliah, the mother of Ahaziah, saw that her son died, and she rose up and destroyed all the seed of the kingdom. And Jehosheba, daughter of King Joram, sister of Ahaziah, took Joash, the son of her brother, and stole him away from out of the midst of the sons of the king being put to death, him and his nurse. And she hid him in the inner chamber of the beds from the face of Athaliah, and he was not put to death. And he was with her in the house of the Lord, being hid 6 years. And Athaliah reigned over the land. And in the 7th year, Jehoiada the priest took the commanders of hundreds of the patrols and of the couriers, and brought them into himself in the house of the Lord. And he ordained with them a covenant, and bound them to an oath in the presence of the Lord, and showed to them the son of the king. And he gave charge to them, saying, This is the thing which you shall do. The third part from you entering on the Sabbath, let guard the watch of the house of the king. And the third part in the gate of the way, and the third part in the gate behind the bodyguards, even guard the watch of the house. And 2 hands among you, any going forth on the Sabbath, shall guard the watch of the house of the Lord unto the king. And you shall encircle around the king, every man round about, and his weapon shall be in his hand. And the one entering into the ranks shall die. And they will be with the king in his entering and in his exiting. And the commanders of hundreds did according to all as much as Jehoiada gave charge. And each commander took of his men entering on the Sabbath, with the ones exiting on the Sabbath, and entered to Jehoiada the priest. And the priest gave to the commanders of 100 the quivers and the wooden spears of King David, the ones in the house of the Lord. And the bodyguards each stood, and his weapon was in his hand, at the protrusion of the house at the right, unto the protrusion of the house at the left of the altar, and of the house around the king round about. And he brought forth the son of the king, and put upon him the diadem and the testimony, and he anointed him, and gave him rain. And they clapped their hands, and said, Let the king live! And Athaliah heard the sound of the running of the people, and she went to the people into the house of the Lord. And she saw, and behold, the king stood at the column according to their practice, and the singers and the ones with trumpets were around the king, and all the people of the land were rejoicing and trumpeting with trumpets. And Athaliah tore her garments and yelled, Conspiracy! Conspiracy! And Jehoiada the priest gave charge to the commanders of hundreds, and to the overseers of the force, and said to them, Lead her outside the ranks, and the one entering after her. To death she shall be put to death by the broadsword. For the priest said, She should not die in the house of the Lord. And they put hands upon her, and she entered by way of the entrance of the horses of the house of the king, and they put her to death there. And Jehoiada ordained a covenant between the Lord and between the king and between the people, for them to be a people to the Lord. And all the people of the land entered into the house of Baal, and they tore it down. And his altars and his images they broke diligently. And Mathan, the priest of Baal, they killed before the face of the altars. And the priest established overseers in the house of the Lord. And he took the commanders of hundreds, and the patrol, and the couriers, and all the people of the land, and they led the king from out of the house of the Lord, and entered the way of the gate of the bodyguards of the house of the king. And they seated him upon the throne of the kings. And all the people of the land rejoiced, and the city was still. And Athaliah they put to death by a broadsword in the house of the king. Joash was a son 7 years old in his taking reign.